And so I think this was Wednesday. Um, essentially, um, you know, the Attorney General of Kentucky, Daniel Cameron, I think is his name,
Yeah, Daniel.
um, came out and said, like they're not announcing any really like they're not announcing any charges against the police officers for killing Breonna Taylor, but they're announcing one charge against one of the three police officers responsible for basically endangering other people outside of Breonna Taylor's apartment because there was like some stray bullets that hit the drywall or whatever. So like that was like shooting into other people's apartments nearby. So rightfully so, this definitely pissed off a whole lot of people. There are a lot of people who were essentially saying, and this is more or less true, the one of the three police officers who killed Breonna Taylor was charged for the bullets that missed.
Yeah.
And
And not for the 9 bullets that actually hit her body.
yeah, I mean, there's been and like that is also further opened the conversation about what really happened during that, because like the story had been that the police officer shot Breonna Taylor because Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot at the police, and there's been some more like eyewitness revelations from that night that said like that really didn't happen, or that's like kind of a dishonest framing of what happened.
Yeah. And it was like a lot of interviews said they didn't hear anything. The police announced themselves. It was
Yeah,
like
they
one.
didn't hear the police announce themselves. So like, like if Breonna Taylor's boyfriend did shoot at the cops, it wasn't like because like they were police. Like it's not like he knew that they were police.
If
If
they,
that is true, that they didn't announce themselves.
yeah, like if they say, "Hey, Louisville PD, knock knock," I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have the same reaction because the thing is, even then, like they banged at the door, they didn't identify themselves, and one interviewer said they could, she might have heard it, but the thing is, with all commotion going on, he couldn't have heard it. But the thing is,
Yeah,
they didn't happen. They failed to identify themselves.
yeah. They didn't announce themselves as the police, so Breonna Taylor's boyfriend,
Like,
might as well just have thought it was an intruder.
yeah, it was like imagine someone banging your door late in the dead of night.
Yeah,
Would that scare the literal shit out of you? Like, and they're
that
trying.
actually, yeah, that actually happened with my family when I was very little, more or less. I mean, like I can just tell the story real quick, but yeah, it was when I was very little, so I don't remember it. I just remember my dad telling the story. One night there was a guy, like there was like some knocking on like all of our doors, or like not at once, but like there was a knocking on one door, and then it would go away, and then he'd be knocking on another door, and eventually we let him in through our front door, and it was a guy who was shot, who was looking for a nearby house to like call the hospital or call 911, and that scared the shit out of everyone in our house. But yeah, like this guy was like literally shot and then like just dumped on the side of the road.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, some yes, and then they eventually caught the dude that did it, but like he later was killed in another like kind of gang related incident, and then the guy who was shot, who ended up in our home, uh, ended up getting arrested for armed robbery at a later date, and like in an unrelated incident, but
Wow.
yeah, that kind of scared the shit out of everyone. But yeah, like that. My point of me telling that story is that yeah, like our family knows generally what it's like to just have our door kind of knocked on at very late at night. And even if it's not danger, sometimes it brings bad news. So,
Yeah, I think it's my family. We like back in Middletown. This person was robbing houses, and they robbed their neighbor's house. Like
yeah,
for some reason, they got scared off our front porch when they tried to tap like the spring door.
yeah,
But I completely get it because, like, say if someone's trying to rob you, like, you have the right to defend yourself in your property. And the thing is, a lot
yeah,
of Republicans even advocate for that. the stand your ground law, which Kenneth Walker was actually using. The thing is, us all of a sudden, because he's a black man too, and that
We
because
have to respect our law enforcement.
yeah, I mean, and adding like respect police narrative, which I like to push, somehow it's not okay, even though you fail to identify yourself as
Yeah.
a law enforcement official.
Yeah. I wonder if it would have gone down much different, even if the police did identify themselves.
Yeah, and but especially they had a little reason to be there. There was no connection between Breonna Taylor and a drug operation. Neither was her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. And in fact, it was the ex who hasn't been there.
Yeah. But yeah, this whole announcement like made a whole lot of people angry. And I said this later on Instagram, and I was talking about this with you because I was a little nervous about sharing it because I thought that I didn't get any shit for it. No one actually responded, but I shared a picture of Daniel Cameron and said this is further proof that representation doesn't really mean anything unless there is policy unless it doesn't mean anything with the lack of policy that actually helps underrepresented communities. And identity politics has essentially led us into this whole thing in which Republicans can easily just one up the Democrats, saying, see, we have the first black attorney general of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Where's our progressive brownie points? And they're able to, like I said, they're able to essentially one up the Democrats like that, whereas Democrats don't talk nearly enough about how their policies, as bad as some of the mainstream Democrats' policies are, how much better their policies are for underrepresented communities as opposed to Republican policies.
Definitely. A lot of identity politics is sadly on both sides.
Yeah. And it's not like they don't have any argument in that area. Like I said, that
it comes from a good place, but it assumes black, Hispanic, any other group think alike, and that's really not true. Everybody has different opinions and diverse views. So the thing is, it comes from a good place, but it assumes that automatically a person is progressive.
Yeah. And then on top of that, these underrepresented communities really don't care so much about representation as they do care about the policy. They're not really impressed as what Dr. Cornel West describes as black faces in high places. And he's talking about how the Black Lives Matter movement was started under a black president, black attorney general, and black Secretary of Homeland Security. And how those people basically been used as props of the establishment, say, look, we're progressing.
That happens in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even Charlottesville, half of our mayor's black, city manager, and we still have a lot of the racial inequality and wealth inequality within Charlottesville community.
Yeah, Charlottesville has a huge affordable housing problem that has existed for such a long time. Yeah. I don't I live 30 minutes away from Charlottesville. Not now, but when I still lived in that area, I only lived 30 minutes from Charlottesville, and our house was bought back it was built back in the 90s, and that's when we bought the land, then we built the house. It would be so much more expensive today than it was now, to the point we probably wouldn't be able to afford it.
No, sadly. The thing is, when I moved here, at first my family could not afford to have a house, because back where I'm at, the median housing value is $230. Here it's near 400,000.
400,000?
Yeah, it's somewhere near 400,000.
Damn.